Picture this. You and someone else earning roughly the same, navigating, the same kind of economic landscape.
Yeah.
Years go by, and somehow you find yourselves on vastly different financial paths. One of you is, secure, the other's constantly stressed about money. What's that unseen force at play? Well, it's the psychology of money, and that's what we're diving deep into today.
Absolutely. And it's so much more than just income figures or, having the right opportunities land in your lap.
Right.
It really boils down to how we think, how we feel, and ultimately how we act when it comes to money. Our ingrained biases, those emotional responses, even subtle things from how we grew up.
Yeah.
These are powerful factors shaping our financial futures.
And that's exactly why we're doing this deep dive. It's tailored specifically for you, our listener, to help you understand your own personal relationship with money. And hopefully unlock the habits that lead to lasting financial well-being. We're not talking about becoming some stock market genius overnight or, winning the lottery.
No.
This is really about understanding the inner game of wealth.
So what's on the agenda? What are we going to explore? Well, we'll kick things off by looking back a bit, see how our whole idea of money has evolved historically.
Okay.
And interestingly, how different cultures tend to approach it quite differently. Then we'll dissect some of the key psychological principles that drive our financial choices, those hidden biases and emotional triggers we all have.
Right. And we'll definitely get into the practical stuff, those habits that consistently build wealth. Things like, the power of saving early, the discipline of living within your means, stuff you probably saw in the sources you looked at.
For sure.
And just as importantly, we need to shine a light on the habits that can, stofily undermine your financial progress. Things like overspending or those tempting but often really risky get-rich-quick ideas.
Yeah, those are dangerous. And crucially, we'll also step back and consider some real-world challenges. Valid counter-arguments to the standard advice you hear everywhere. Things like systemic barriers, or maybe the downsides of being, too frugal.
And finally, we'll bring it all together. We want to give you actionable steps you can take right now in 2025 to really start reshaping your money mindset.
We'll even touch on how modern tech can actually be a helpful tool in this.
Oh, yeah.
And how just shifting your perspective can unlock some serious financial gains.
Our aim here isn't just to throw information at you. We want to offer insights that hopefully resonate with your own life and empower you to make some meaningful changes.
Exactly. So, let's start right at the beginning, shall we? How did this relationship we have with this thing called money even start?
Okay, let's unpack this a bit. If we rewind way back, before coins, before cash, it was all barter, wasn't it? Creating goods directly.
Yeah. Physical stuff or physical stuff.
What's interesting there is how tangible wealth was. You could literally see it, touch it. This direct link to survival probably fostered a very basic hoard it or lose it kind of mentality.
Precisely. Then, fast forward a bit, around the 7th century BCE, we start seeing coinage emerge. This standardization, the portability, it was revolutionary, really.
Shift.
For the first time, concepts like saving, maybe even basic lending and investing, they became, possible. Wealth started becoming a bit more abstract.
And then you leap forward again to paper money, formalized banking in the 17th century. Now, this is where the psychology really starts getting complex, wouldn't you say?
Oh, definitely. Money's no longer valuable in itself. It's a representation of value. It's built on trust, on societal agreement.
Right.
And that abstraction, it just amplified the role of emotions, confidence, fear in all our financial dealings.
And now, in our digital age, with everything being electronic transfers, crypto, money's more abstract than ever.
Absolutely. And as some of those articles probably touched on, the sheer ease of clicking buy now.
Yeah.
It can tap right into our impulses.
Too easily sometimes.
And the speculative nature of some digital assets adds this whole new layer. Fear of missing out, the lure of quick riches. It's the psychological minefield.
What's also fascinating, looking across different sources, is how much culture matters. Societies that prioritize the community versus those emphasizing the individual.
Huge difference. These deep values really impact how people see and handle money.
Like Japan in the 90s, more collectives, right. And they had these incredibly high household savings rates.
Exactly. Often 10, maybe 15% of income. Families were prioritizing security, future needs. It was baked into the culture.
Contrast that with, say, the U.S. more individualistic, more consumer-driven. Some recent reports show personal savings rates dipping below 5%.
Yeah, it really highlights how cultural norms shape our behavior with money day to day.
and fundamentally digging into the psychology itself. Daniel Kahneman's work, Prospect Theory, it shows we're not always rational, are we?
Not even close sometimes. The pain of a loss. It hits us way harder psychologically than the pleasure of an equivalent game.
Loss aversion.
Exactly. That loss aversion, as you probably read about, can lead to some pretty illogical choices, like holding on to a losing stock way too long, just to avoid admitting the loss.
Right. And behavioral economics generally just keeps showing how much our emotions, greed, fear, envy, you name it, unconsciously drive our spending, our investing, our habits. So this whole backdrop, historical, cultural, psychological, it really sets the stage, doesn't it? It helps explain why our money habits feel so ingrained.
And why changing them isn't just about learning facts. It's about understanding our own minds in relation to money.
Which leads us to, okay, how do these quirks in our thinking actually play out day to day? How do our minds help, or maybe more often hinder us with our finances?
Let's get into that, because understanding these specific mental shortcuts or biases is really key.
Okay, so cognitive biases. These mental shortcuts our brains use. Super helpful sometimes, but...
But they can lead us astray with money, right?
Exactly, especially when we don't realize they're happening.
And what's interesting is how subtle they can be. Like, take anchoring. We latch on to the first piece of info we get, even if it's kind of random.
Like in shops.
Totally. You see that original price slashed, then the sale price. Our brain anchors on the high number, so the sale price feels like a bargain, even if it's,
Yeah, happens all the time. And then there's loss aversion again, that powerful feeling where losing, say, $100 feels way worse than gaining $100 feels good.
Right. It makes us overly cautious sometimes. Or, like we said, hang on to bad investments just to avoid facing the loss.
Have you ever done that? Held on to something too long, knowing deep down you should sell?
Maybe. Definitely felt the pull. It's a strong bias.
And present bias, that's a big one today, isn't it? Wanting the reward now versus later.
Oh, yeah. Instant gratification culture feeds right into it. Why save for retirement decades away when you can buy that shiny new thing today? This short-term focus, as some sources probably pointed out, really eats away at long-term security.
The data is pretty stark. So many people with hardly any emergency savings. That present bias, focusing on today, it has real consequences.
And if you layer our emotions on top of these biases, well, it gets even clearer. Psychologist Brad Klontz talks about money scripts.
Right. Yeah, those unconscious beliefs about money, often from childhood.
Exactly. Stemming from family, experiences, things we picked up without even realizing.
And they can be incredibly powerful drivers, even if we're not aware of them. Like maybe you grew up where money was always a source of stress, arguments. You might develop money avoidance, subconsciously linking wealth with bad feelings. You might even sabotage your own success. Does that resonate at all? Maybe things you've seen?
Oh, absolutely. Think about someone, let's call her Sarah. Maybe she heard her parents constantly say rich people were greedy.
Okay.
That script gets ingrained. So later, even if she knows logically investing is good, she feels uncomfortable earning too much or seeing her portfolio grow. She's avoiding becoming one of them.
Wow. Okay. Then on the flip side, you've got money worship.
Right, the idea that money solves everything.
Yeah.
That it's the key to happiness.
Which can lead to
compulsive spending, chasing those super risky high-yield fads, often ending badly.
And the third one, money status.
Yeah, where wealth is mainly about showing off, proving your worth through what you own.
Keeping up with the Joneses, basically.
Exactly, which fuels overspending on luxury stuff, trying to project an image.
And you can't talk about this without mentioning social pressure, right? We're wired to compare ourselves.
We really are. And social media just pours gasoline on that fire, doesn't it? These curated, perfect lives.
Yeah, it makes comparison almost constant.
And surveys show it. A big chunk of people admit feeling pressure to spend more than they should just to keep up appearances online or with peers.
It really makes you think of that Dave Ramsey quote. Something like, we buy things we don't need with money we don't have to impress people we don't like.
Huh. Yeah, that nails it pretty well. The irrationality that takes over when we get caught up in comparing.
So, given all these powerful forces, biases, emotions, social stuff, it brings us to the crucial question. What actually works? What are the habits that help build wealth despite all this?
Okay, let's shift gears to the positive. We know the hurdles. Now, what are the habits that consistently show up when you look at people who successfully build wealth?
First thing, and it probably came up a lot in your research, wealth isn't just about the paycheck. It's what you do with it.
Absolutely. It's about keeping it and growing it. Accumulation over time.
And number one has to be prioritizing savings, right? That pay yourself first ideas.
Cornerstone habit. Before you pay bills, before discretionary spending, you allocate a chunk, maybe 10, 15, 20% straight to savings or investments.
Automatically, if possible.
Yes. Automating it is key. Set up those transfers. It takes the willpower out of it, makes saving the default.
And the evidence backs this up, doesn't it? Studies show consistent savers are way more likely to be financially independent later on.
Think about someone like Warren Buffett. His incredible wealth wasn't built overnight. It was decades of saving consistently and reinvesting wisely. He started super young with hardly anything.
Right, that early start, even small amounts, plus compounding. Powerful stuff.
Which leads right into the next habit.
Well,
living below your means. Being intentional, frugal, and crucially, avoiding lifestyle inflation.
Yes, the tendency for spending to creep up every time you get a raise.
Exactly. You got to actively fight that.
That book, The Millionaire Next Door, did you come across that?
Yeah, fascinating stuff.
It showed most actual millionaires live pretty modestly, right? Not flashy cars and huge houses. They focus on building wealth, not just looking wealthy.
Precisely. A practical way to handle this is budgeting. The 50-30-20 rule is a decent starting point. 50% needs, 30% wants, 20% savings debt.
And there are tons of apps now to help track things. Wyanna, Mint, Pocket Guard. Have you used any of those? Can they actually help?
They definitely can help with awareness and tracking. Seeing where the money goes is the first step.
Okay, so saving living below means MAC. Next up is investing wisely.
Indispensable for long-term growth. This means things like diversification. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Thinking long-term, not trying to time the market perfectly.
And avoiding those hot tips.
Oh yeah, and continually educating yourself. Understanding what you're investing in.
History shows that staying invested long-term, despite the inevitable dips, generally pays off, right? The S&P 500 average return over decades is pretty solid.
It really is. Jack Bogle, the Vanguard guy, was all about this. Low-cost index funds. Basically, buy the whole haystack, diversify easily, keep fees low, let compounding do its magic.
And speaking of long-term, patience. That's a habit in itself.
Hugely important. Wealth building is a marathon, not a sprint. You need that delayed gratification muscle.
Wasn't it Buffett who said the stock market transfers money from the impatient to the patient?
Sounds like him. It really captures it. Resist the urge to react impulsively to market noise. Stay the course.
And starting early, even small amounts, makes such a difference with compounding. That example of, say, $200 a month from age 25, it adds up massively by retirement.
It really demonstrates the power of time. Starting early is maybe the biggest advantage you can give yourself.
And the final habit, continuous learning.
Yes. People who succeed financially tend to stay curious. They keep learning about finance, the economy, investing. The landscape changes. You need to adapt.
Think about successful investors or entrepreneurs, often voracious readers, always seeking new info.
Absolutely. It helps them make better, more informed decisions.
Okay, so those are the wealth-building habits. But we also need to talk about the other side, the habits that quietly destroy wealth.
Exactly. The shadow side. These seemingly small negative things can compound just as powerfully, but downwards.
And number one culprit is probably just overspending. Living beyond your means consistently.
Often fueled by credit cards, leading to high-interest debt. That just eats away at your resources.
The average credit card debt figures are pretty scary in places like the U.S. All that interest paid, it's money that could be growing instead.
Think about someone financing a fancy car they can't really afford. The interest alone over the loan term could be tens of thousands.
Yeah.
Money that could have been invested.
Ouch. So the solution is track spending, use cash, maybe for discretionary stuff. Cut up the cards.
Gaining awareness is step one. Then setting limits, maybe using tools like a debt payoff planner, making conscious choices.
Okay, next wealth destroyer. Neglecting savings, both emergency funds and retirement.
Yeah, without that cushion, any unexpected expense, job loss, medical bill can derail everything. And not saving for retirement, well, that's a huge problem later.
The stats on people near retirement with little saved are sobering. Relying solely on Social Security often isn't enough for a comfortable life.
Again, automation is your friend here. Set up automatic transfers to an emergency fund and your retirement accounts. Make it non-negotiable.
Then there's the allure of getting rich quick.
Ah, yes. Speculative investments, scams, maybe dodgy MLMs.
Things promising unrealistic returns with zero risk.
History's full of examples. Remember that Squid Game crypto thing that crashed? billions lost. It preys on greed and FOMO, fear of missing out.
So the advice is be skeptical. Stick to proven strategies. Maybe consult a real fiduciary advisor.
Absolutely. If it sounds too good to be true, it almost certainly is.
Another big one, ignoring debt. Especially high-interest stuff.
Payday loans, high-rate credit cards, sometimes even student loans, depending on the rate. The interest working against you is a massive drag.
That debt burden just sucks up income that could be used for saving or investing. It's a cycle.
So prioritizing paying down that high-interest debt is critical. Strategies like the debt avalanche, tackling the highest rate first, can save you a lot in interest.
Makes sense. And finally, just a lack of basic financial literacy.
Yeah, the silent wealth destroyer. Not understanding budgeting, investing basics, compounding. It leads to mistakes and missed opportunities.
Ben Franklin said something about investing in knowledge, paying the best interest.
Sounds right. Taking time to learn is probably the best investment you can make. Read books, The Psychology of Money, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Use resources like Khan Academy. Educate yourself.
So, knowing these pitfalls is the first step. Avoiding them takes discipline.
Conscious effort, yeah. Prioritizing long-term health over short-term temptations.
Now, we've laid out these habits, these principles, but we should probably acknowledge it's not always that simple, right? Life throws curveballs. The advice doesn't always fit everyone.
That's a really crucial point. A lot of standard advice kind of assumes everyone starts on the same footing, with the same opportunities.
Which just isn't true.
Exactly. Systemic things, income inequality, wage gaps, discrimination, just economic instability. They make it way harder for some people to save and invest. We have to acknowledge that.
Yeah, it's vital. Individual actions matter, but these bigger societal issues need addressing too, through policy, community programs.
Definitely. Another thing is the focus on extreme frugality you sometimes see. Living below your means is good, but
going too extreme can suck the joy out of life, lead to burnout.
Right. It needs to be sustainable. The goal isn't self-deprivation, it's intentionality. That 50-30-20 budget, for instance, includes money for wants. It's about balance.
And investing. It's essential, but it does involve risk. Markets crash, people lose money. That can be really discouraging.
For sure. Especially if you're new or risk-averse. It highlights why understanding your own tolerance, diversifying, and thinking long-term are so important. Market swings are normal over time.
We also have to circle back to those psychological barriers, those deep money scripts, emotional spending. They're not easy to just switch off.
No, they're not. Sometimes willpower isn't enough. Seeking help from a financial therapist, someone who gets the emotional side, can be really valuable.
Or even some of the newer apps that use behavioral nudges.
Yeah, those can help too. Little prompts to make you pause and think.
And finally, culture matters. Western advice often focuses on individual independence,
which might not fit neatly in more collectivist cultures where family or community finances are intertwined.
Right, so strategies might need adapting. Maybe group savings schemes work better in some contexts.
Exactly. It's about finding what works within your cultural reality, not just blindly following one model.
So considering all these nuances, these challenges, how do we actually apply this psychology stuff to build wealth today in 2025?
Okay, bringing it all together for right now. The good news is we have more tools and understanding than ever before to work with our psychology, not just fight against it.
Technology is a big part of that, right?
Huge. Things are so much more user-friendly. Robo-advisors, for example. They make automated, diversified investing really accessible, often with low fees. Takes a lot of the guesswork out.
And budgeting apps are smarter now, too. They use behavioral tricks.
Some do, yeah. They help you see patterns, maybe nudge you gently. And micro-investing apps rounding up purchases. It's almost effortless saving. Gets you started without feeling the pinch.
The growth in robo-advisors is massive, isn't it? Trillions globally. People are definitely adopting these tools.
But it's not just about the tech. Reframing your mindset is maybe even more important.
How do you mean?
Well, start by really visualizing your long-term goals. Why are you saving? What's the bigger picture? Connecting daily choices to that why is powerful motivation.
And practicing gratitude, how does that help financially?
It can actually reduce that constant urge to consume, to keep up. Being thankful for what you have can dampen impulsive spending driven by comparison.
And actively challenging those money scripts we talked about.
Yes. Reflect. What did I learn about money growing up? Are those beliefs helpful now? Consciously replacing limiting beliefs with empowering ones. That's transformative work, like writing a money autobiography.
That sounds interesting. And staying informed is still key.
Absolutely. Keep learning. Follow reliable experts. Read widely. Maybe even books like Atomic Habits that aren't just about finance, but about habit change itself.
Be aware of trends like crypto, but be cautious.
Right. Understand the risks. And we're seeing trends like ESG investing, sustainable, socially responsible, becoming more popular, aligning money with values.
That makes sense. What about support systems?
Crucial. A good fee-only fiduciary advisor can be invaluable. Accountability partners, friends, family with similar goals, even online communities like Reddit's personal finance forums can offer support.
And finally, protecting the wealth you do build.
Yes. Don't forget the basics. Emergency fund, 3 to 6 months of expenses. Proper insurance, health, life, disability. And basic estate planning, like a will.
Amazing how many people lack basic life insurance, for example.
It's a critical safety net. So, yeah, by using tech smartly, working on our mindset, staying informed, building support, and protecting assets, we can really leverage psychology to build wealth effectively now.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, the big takeaway really seems to be this. Building wealth is so much about your mindset, your habits, maybe even more than just your income level.
We've looked at how our minds can sometimes work against us, biases, emotions, but also how specific positive habits really add up.
Right. Saving consistently, living intentionally, investing patiently, learning continuously.
And we've also talked about the habits that erode wealth: overspending, debt, chasing quick fixes, ignoring savings.
And importantly, we acknowledge the real-world challenges, the systemic issues. It's not always a level playing field.
No, it's not. But the core message remains. Intentional actions, even small ones, create momentum over time. Understanding your relationship with money is key.
It really comes down to understanding yourself and recognizing the power of small, consistent changes, doesn't it?
Absolutely. In your thinking and your behavior.
So here's a direct question for you, the listener, to think about. What's one small, truly actionable step you can commit to taking today, right now?
Maybe it is setting up that automatic transfer, or downloading a budgeting app just to look around, or picking up one of those books we mentioned.
That one small action could genuinely be the start of a much more secure, maybe more fulfilling financial path for you.
And remember, resources like SideBySide are out there to help you keep learning.
And just to leave you with one final thought to chew on, think back. Right. What are some of your earliest memories involving money? How might those very early experiences and the feelings attached to them still be subtly shaping how you act with money today? Maybe in ways you haven't really stopped to consider before.
Yeah, that's definitely something worth exploring as you continue on your financial journey.